The alien gods had watched many worlds rise and fall. They saw oceans freeze, suns die, and races fade into dust. Most worlds were quiet when they ended. Some cried out. Some prayed. Earth was different. That was why it held their attention. From far beyond time and space, the gods looked down at the blue planet. Fires burned across its surface. Cities lay broken like shattered glass. Smoke climbed into the sky and mixed with the clouds. By every measure the gods used, humanity should have already fallen. Humans were small. Their bodies were weak. Their lives were short. Yet Earth still moved. Humans still lived. James walked through the ruins of what was once a busy street. The ground was cracked and broken metal lay everywhere. Tall buildings leaned at strange angles, their windows dark and empty. The air smelled of dust and ash. Every step hurt, but James kept walking. He carried a pack on his back, heavy with supplies he had gathered from fallen stores. Emily walked beside him. Her face was dirty, and her hair was tied back with a torn piece of cloth. One arm was bandaged, stained with old blood, but she did not slow down. She watched the street carefully, listening for sounds of life or danger. Above them, the sky glowed red as distant fires burned. They reached a small group of people hiding inside the remains of a shop. A weak light shone from inside. James knocked on the bent metal door and called out softly. When it opened, fear filled the eyes of those inside. Children clung to their parents. An old man sat on the floor, breathing hard. James set his pack down and opened it. He handed out water and food, speaking calmly. Emily checked wounds and tightened bandages with steady hands. No one cried out to the sky. No one begged for help from higher powers. They thanked James and Emily, then focused on eating, resting, and surviving. Far above, the alien gods watched this moment closely. They expected screams. They expected prayers. On other worlds, beings raised their hands to the heavens and begged for mercy when the end came. Humans did not. They helped each other instead. This confused the gods. One of the gods shifted its attention deeper, watching the thoughts and feelings of the humans below. It searched for faith, fear, and worship. It found fear, yes, but it was quiet and controlled. It found pain, grief, and loss. But beneath all of it there was something stronger. A steady will to continue. James and Emily left the shop when night fell. The streets were darker now, lit only by fires in the distance and a few flickering lights. The ground shook once, then settled. Emily stopped walking and looked up. For a moment, James thought she saw something in the sky. "Do you think anyone is watching us?" she asked quietly. James followed her gaze. The stars were faint, hidden by smoke and light. "Maybe," he said. "But it doesn't matter." Emily nodded. She seemed comforted by his answer. They continued on. They reached a damaged bridge that crossed a wide gap where the ground had collapsed. Below, darkness swallowed the remains of vehicles and buildings. James tested the bridge with his foot. It held. Slowly they crossed, helping a few others who followed them. A sudden explosion echoed far away. The sound rolled across the ruins like thunder. Some people froze, fear rising again. James raised his voice, calm but firm. "Keep moving," he said. "We're almost there." The alien gods felt something they rarely felt. Unease. They saw humans walk toward danger instead of away from it. They saw humans make choices that did not serve comfort or safety, but survival for others. The gods had power beyond measure. They shaped stars and ended civilizations with a thought. Yet these small beings, with broken tools and wounded bodies, acted with a strength the gods did not understand. As the night deepened, James and Emily reached a shelter built beneath an old transit station. Lights glowed inside, powered by scavenged machines. Dozens of people rested there. Some slept. Others worked, fixing equipment or cooking food. When James and Emily arrived, people made space for them. Emily sat down, finally letting herself rest. Her hands shook as the weight of the day caught up to her. James noticed and handed her a cup of warm water. She smiled weakly. "Another day," she said. "Another day," James agreed. Above them, unseen, the gods watched this quiet moment. No songs of praise rose from the shelter. No voices called out to the sky. Humans did not thank the universe for sparing them. They did not curse it either. They simply lived. The gods tried to measure this behavior. It did not fit any pattern they knew. Faith usually gave strength to weak races. Fear kept them obedient. Humans had neither in the way the gods expected. They believed in each other. As time passed, the gods noticed something else. Every loss made humans more careful, more connected. Every failure taught them something. They remembered. They adapted. Where one fell, another stepped forward. The gods began to feel watched themselves, as if humanity's quiet endurance was a mirror held up to their own emptiness. James lay back on the hard ground, staring at the ceiling. He thought of the world before the fires. He felt sadness but not defeat. Tomorrow would be harder. He knew that. But tomorrow would come. Emily closed her eyes, listening to the steady breathing around her. Life continued even here. Even now. High above Earth, the alien gods turned their gaze slightly away. Not because humanity was strong in body or weapon. Not because Earth could threaten them. They looked away because they did not understand this kind of strength. And what they did not understand made them uneasy. On a broken world beneath a burning sky, humans endured in silence. The disasters did not stop at Earth. Across the galaxy, stars flared without warning. Planets cracked. Trade routes collapsed. Worlds that once felt safe fell into chaos. The alien gods watched it all from their distant realm, calm and curious. They had seen this before. Life always failed when pushed too far. Humans did not. Michael stood on the bridge of an old evacuation ship, his hands resting on a cracked control panel. The ship shook as damaged engines pushed it forward. Warning lights blinked in weak colors. Power was low. Fuel was worse. By every normal rule, the ship should have been abandoned. Michael did not abandon it. Status? He asked. Jessica looked up from a screen filled with broken symbols and fading lines. Her eyes were tired but sharp. Life support is holding, she said. Engines are unstable but we'll make one more jump. One more is enough, Michael said. Behind them, hundreds of people waited in tight rows. Families sat close together. Some held small bags. Others held nothing but each other. The ship was meant for half this number, but no one was turned away. Humans made space. They always did. The alien gods focused their attention on this ship. They watched Michael and Jessica closely. On other worlds, leaders saved themselves first. They chose power, comfort, or survival of the few. Humans chose differently. The ship exited jump space with a violent shake. Several systems failed at once. Lights went out. The bridge went dark except for emergency glow. A deep sound echoed through the hull as something cracked. Jessica grabbed the edge of the console to stay upright. Engine 3 is gone, she said. We can't keep jumping like this. Michael took a slow breath. Then we don't jump again. She looked at him. This system isn't safe. It's safer than where we came from, he replied. Outside the view screen, a small planet came into view. Its surface was rough and dry but stable. No fires. No storms. It was not perfect, but it could hold life. That was enough. As the ship moved closer, alarms sounded again. Heat levels rose. Power dropped further. Some people began to panic. A child cried. A man shouted in fear. Michael stood and turned toward the passengers. His voice was steady even as the ship trembled. Listen to me, he said. We are landing. It won't be smooth, but we will land. Stay seated. Hold on to each other. Jessica watched him speak. She felt fear deep in her chest. But she also felt trust. Not in machines. Not in fate. In people. The alien gods watched this moment with growing tension. Humans knew the risk. They understood the danger. Still they stayed. No one rushed the bridge. No one tried to take control. They accepted the danger together. The ship entered the planet's atmosphere. Flames licked the sides of the hull. Metal groaned. Systems shut down one by one. Jessica fought the controls manually, her hands moving fast, her jaw tight. We're losing control, she said. Michael moved beside her and placed his hands on the controls as well. Together they guided the falling ship. Not with perfect skill but with stubborn effort. The impact was hard. The ship tore through trees and stone before coming to a stop. Silence followed. Then coughing. Then voices. Michael opened his eyes. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he was alive. Jessica was still beside him, breathing, blood running down her forehead. We're down, she said. And we're alive, Michael answered. They opened the ship. Fresh air rushed in. People stepped out slowly, blinking under a new sky. Some cried. Some laughed. Some fell to their knees in relief. No one cheered. There was too much loss behind them for that. They began working almost at once. The injured were treated. Supplies were gathered from the wreck. Shelters were built from broken ship parts. No one waited for orders for long. Everyone did what they could. The alien gods watched the hours pass. They saw exhaustion. They saw hunger. They saw pain. But they also saw cooperation without command. Humans did not need a ruler or a god to tell them what to do. They acted because others needed them. Elsewhere in the galaxy, other human ships did the same. Broken fleets carried refugees to unsafe worlds and made them safe. Old machines were repaired with scrap. Failing systems were held together by patience and skill. Humans shared air, water, and time. The gods searched for a moment of collapse. A point where humans would turn on each other. It did not come. One god reached deeper, trying to understand. It touched the edge of human thought and pulled back quickly. There was too much noise. Too much emotion. Fear, yes, but also care. Loss, but also hope. The mix was unstable and unfamiliar. Michael sat on the ground as night fell on the new world. A small fire burned nearby. Jessica sat across from him, wrapping her injured head with clean cloth. "We can't stay forever," she said. "I know," Michael replied. "But we can stay long enough." She nodded. That was how humans plan now. Not forever. Just long enough to survive the next moment. High above, the alien gods felt something change. It was not anger. It was not hatred. It was fear. Not fear of human weapons. Not fear of conquest. Fear of something harder to stop. Human will did not break when tested. It adapted. It bent, then returned stronger. Humans did not abandon each other even when logic said they should. The gods had ruled for ages by understanding patterns. Humanity did not follow them. As the humans settled under alien stars, the gods began to turn their gaze away, not in pride but in doubt. For the first time they wondered if watching was dangerous. Because what endures without gods does not need them at all. The alien gods no longer only watched. They decided to test. If humans grew through hardship, then hardship would be endless. The gods turned their power toward Earth and its colonies. Storms formed without warning. Winds tore across cities. Seas rose and swallowed coastlines. At the same time, war spread. Old enemies returned. New ones appeared. Supply lines failed. Hope was meant to fail with them. On a distant human colony far from Earth, David stood on a metal wall and looked at the dark sky. Thick clouds moved fast, twisting in unnatural ways. Lightning flashed again and again, striking the ground with loud cracks. The air felt heavy, like the world itself was angry. Ashley climbed the steps to the wall and joined him. Her armor was worn and scratched. She carried a rifle that had been repaired too many times. "The storm is getting worse," she said. David nodded. "So is the attack." Below them, the colony spread out in small blocks of metal buildings. It was not large. It had been built for farming and research, not war. Now barricades stood where open paths once were. Fires burned in barrels to keep equipment dry. People moved fast, their faces tight with fear and focus. There would be no rescue. Everyone knew it. Messages sent to nearby systems received no answers. Jump routes were blocked. The colony was alone. The first wave of attackers came as the storm reached its peak. Shapes moved through rain and wind, hard to see. Weapons flashed. Explosions shook the ground. David raised his rifle and fired, aiming carefully. He did not waste shots. Ashley moved beside him, covering the side he could not see. People fell. Some from enemy fire. Some from the storm itself. The wind threw debris like weapons. Lightning struck a nearby tower, tearing it apart. The noise was constant, crushing. A section of the wall collapsed. Enemies poured through the opening. David shouted orders, his voice nearly lost in the wind. Volunteers rushed to fill the gap. They used whatever they had, tools, old weapons, even bare hands. Ashley was knocked to the ground by an explosion. David turned and ran to her, dragging her behind cover. Her leg was bleeding badly. "Go back," she told him through clenched teeth. "They need you there." "I'm not leaving you," David said. "You're not," she replied. "You're making sure this place survives." She handed him her rifle. David hesitated only a moment, then took it. Others were already stepping forward. A young man took Ashley's place at the wall. His hands shook, but he stood firm. The alien gods watched closely. They expected collapse now. Leaders were wounded. Defenses were breaking. The storm did not slow. This was the moment other races surrendered or begged. Humans did neither. Ashley was carried to a shelter where medics worked with low light and limited tools. Pain filled the room, but so did quiet focus. No one screamed. No one prayed. They helped. On the wall, David fought until his arms burned and his vision blurred. When his weapon failed, someone handed him another. When that person fell, another stepped forward. The line bent, but it did not break. Hours passed. The storm began to weaken. The attackers pulled back, leaving the ground scarred and broken. Silence followed, heavy and unreal. The colony still stood. David climbed down from the wall, his body shaking from exhaustion. He saw the cost. buildings destroyed. Too many empty spaces where people should have been. The loss hit him hard like a physical blow. Ashley lay on a bed inside the shelter, pale but alive. She opened her eyes when she heard his steps. "We're still here," she said softly. "Yes," David answered. "We are." The alien gods felt something shift. The test had not ended humanity. It had changed them. The colony began rebuilding before the storm clouds fully cleared. Walls were repaired. New plans were drawn. Weak points were noted and strengthened. Loss was not ignored. Names were remembered. Stories were shared. But grief did not stop movement. It pushed it. Across Earth and other colonies, the same pattern repeated. Storms destroyed cities. Wars took lives. Yet everywhere humans learned. They built higher. They planned better. They prepared for the next strike. The gods looked deeper and saw the truth they had missed. Suffering did not hollow humans out. It filled them with purpose. Pain taught them. Loss connected them. Each test made the next one harder for the gods to design. For the first time, the alien gods felt uncertainty turn into fear. Not because humans could defeat them in battle, but because humans could not be broken. David stood outside as the sun rose over the damaged colony. Light touched the ruins and the people moving among them. He felt tired beyond words. He also felt something else. Resolve. Far above, the gods watched this quiet moment and understood too late. Humanity did not grow weaker through suffering. It grew stronger. The alien gods gathered in silence beyond the stars. They had tested humanity with fire, storm, and war. Still humans lived. Still they adapted. The gods now faced a choice they rarely considered. They could end humanity completely, erase Earth and every colony in one final act. The power was there. The question was not how. It was why. Below them, on a quiet world scarred by past destruction, John stood in the middle of a broken settlement. Sunlight touched cracked ground and half-built walls. The air smelled of dust and new metal. Around him, people worked slowly but with care. This place had once been silent. Now it breathed again. Daniel lifted a beam into place beside him. His hands were rough, his movements steady. "This one will hold," he said. John nodded. "It has to." Nearby, Lauren sat with a small group of children under a stretched sheet of fabric that gave shade. Some of the children had known only disaster. They watched the world with quiet eyes. Lauren spoke to them softly, showing them how to draw shapes in the dirt. She told simple stories of green fields and calm skies, not as promises but as memories and goals. "Will the storms come back?" a child asked. Lauren paused. She did not lie. "Maybe," she said. "But we will be ready." The children accepted this answer. They were human. They had learned early. The alien gods watched this world and many others like it. They saw rebuilding where ruin should have remained. Humans did not rebuild to challenge the gods. They rebuilt because life continued and life needed shelter. John wiped sweat from his face and looked at the rising walls. Each piece was placed with care. This was not just a building. It was proof. Proof that loss did not mean the end. Daniel connected power lines made from salvaged parts. Sparks flew then settled. Light filled the room. People nearby stopped and smiled quietly. No cheers. No prayers. Just relief. Across space, human signals began to spread. Old communication arrays were repaired. New ones were built from scrap. Messages traveled slowly, but they traveled far. They did not carry warnings or threats. They carried maps, advice, and shared lessons. Storm-resistant designs tested. Food growth successful in poor soil. You are not alone. The alien gods listened to these signals. They expected fear or anger directed at the stars. They heard none. Humans did not curse the gods. They did not challenge them. They spoke to each other. This unsettled the gods more than rage ever could. On Earth, children returned to classrooms built from metal sheets and broken stone. Teachers taught numbers, words, and history. Not the history of victory but the history of survival. They taught why walls failed and how new ones could stand. They taught that loss was real but not final. Lauren finished her lesson and watched the children run and play among the ruins. Their laughter was soft but real. It echoed in places that had once known only screams. John and Daniel joined her as the sun began to set. "They're stronger than we were," Daniel said. John nodded. "They have to be." Above them, the gods debated in uneasy silence. Ending humanity would be easy. But easy had never felt so dangerous. The gods saw a pattern forming, one they could not control. Humanity was learning without divine guidance. It was growing without worship. And it was sharing that growth. Human signals reached distant colonies some thought lost. Answers returned. Small at first, then more. A network formed built not on power but on connection. The galaxy, once silent in fear, began to hum with quiet human voices. The gods felt the weight of this change. If humanity was erased now, the echo would remain. Others would remember. Others would learn. For the first time, the gods considered the cost of action. John looked up at the stars that night. He did not feel watched. He felt calm. Around him, lights glowed in rebuilt homes. People rested. Tomorrow they would work again. The alien gods slowly turned their gaze away from Earth and its colonies. Not in mercy. Not in kindness. But in hesitation. They had learned something they did not expect. Some beings do not rise by defeating gods. They rise by outlasting them. Far beyond the edge of known space, the alien gods made their choice. They did not speak it aloud. They did not mark it in any record. One by one they turned their attention away from Earth. Not because humanity had defeated them. Not because humans could reach them. They retreated because watching had become unbearable. Earth no longer behaved as it should. On the surface of the planet, life continued in small, steady ways. Cities were not whole, but they were alive. Fields grew where rubble once lay. Machines worked again, repaired by patient hands. People woke each day with tired bodies and clear purpose. James stood on a hill above a rebuilt settlement. The air was cool. The sky was dark and calm. Stars shone clearly for the first time in many years. He held a cup of warm drink and let the steam rise into the night. Below him, lights glowed softly in homes made from old metal and new hope. Voices carried on the wind. Laughter. Quiet talk. The sounds of people living. James did not know how close the end had come. He did not know that gods had watched his world burn and nearly erased it. He only knew that humanity had survived because it kept moving forward. Emily joined him, wrapping a jacket tighter around her shoulders. "It's peaceful tonight," she said. "It is," James replied. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the stars. James felt no fear when he looked up. He felt no need to ask for help. The sky was simply there. Across the galaxy, humans rebuilt on dozens of worlds. Michael and Jessica helped design safer ships, built not for speed or war but for carrying people together. David and Ashley trained new defenders, teaching them not only how to fight but when not to. John, Daniel, and Lauren watched children grow up who had never seen the first storms, but knew the stories. These stories were not about gods. They were about people. Human signals continued to travel through space. They shared maps, ideas, and warnings. They spoke of failed plans and better ones. They carried lessons learned through pain. They did not ask the universe for permission to exist. The alien gods felt these signals fade from their awareness as they pulled back. Distance grew. Silence returned to their realm. Some of the gods felt relief. Others felt something close to loss. They had ruled by watching. By knowing. By stepping in when worlds grew interesting or dangerous. Humanity broke this pattern. Humans did not collapse under attention. They changed under it. The gods had seen fear before. They had seen anger. They had seen worship. They had never seen endurance like this. So they looked away. On Earth, seasons passed. Storms still came, but people were ready. Crops failed sometimes, but others replaced them. Lives were lost, but communities held together. Humanity was scarred but whole. James walked through the settlement the next morning. He greeted people by name. He helped carry supplies. He listened more than he spoke. When a child asked him what the stars were like before the fires, he smiled and told the truth. "They were always there," he said. "We just forgot to look sometimes." That night, James returned to the hill alone. He lay back on the cool ground and stared at the sky. He felt small beneath it but not weak. The universe felt large and quiet, not cruel. Far away beyond thought and time, the alien gods no longer watched him. They no longer watched Earth. They chose ignorance over understanding. Humanity never noticed. And that was the final truth the gods could not accept. Humans did not need to be seen to endure. They endured anyway.